I'm gonna make a bold claim and say Chester Bennington was easily one of the best rock singers, like, ever. And no, it's not just because of the 17-second giving up scream, like, that was cool, but I'm talking range, versatility, the general sound of his voice. He was a once-in-a-multi-generational artist, and his talent will never go unnoticed. This July marks the 8th anniversary of his passing, so to celebrate the amazing catalog he left behind, let's check out some of his lesser-known projects outside of Linkin Park. I don't got any rules for this, anything is on the table as long as it's music and has Chester in it in some capacity. So let's start with this. First, we got Dead by Sunrise, a supergroup Chester was in with members from Julian K and Orgy. If I knew about these guys sooner, they definitely would have been in my favorite supergroups video from a couple months ago, cause goddamn, they slap. I feel out of all the projects I'm gonna talk about, this one will resonate with Linkin Park fans the most. A lot of their songs do a great job at replicating their heavier style from Hybrid Theory and Meteora. You got tracks like Inside of Me that's blisteringly fast with a cracked out guitar solo at the end, or My Suffering, where Chester belts out these crazy visceral screams during the choruses. This might just be the Linkin Park fanboy in me talking, but I kinda hear snippets of a lot of their albums on this. In the Darkness sounds like a slower song from Meteora with the echoey synths and pads layered over each other. Into You's more somber like Minutes to Midnight, and songs like Let Down and Too Late fuse rock with electronic and makes it sound like living things, which is ironic because Out of Exile predates that album by like 3 years. But don't get the impression this is just like Linkin Park 2. This album has a completely unique sound. A lot of songs use synthesizers either to layer solos or as background elements that also work as hooks. Like the song Condemned has a part that sounds like an organ, and it's nothing crazy, but it just sounds really good combined with everything else. It's also got some really nice melodic spots too. Chester actually wrote most of these songs in acoustic guitar first before the band transformed them into what they sound like on the album. And with most of them, I never would have guessed they started like that, but then you hear a song like Gimme Your Name where the vocals and acoustic guitar are just amazing. Speaking of that, to celebrate Out of Ash's 15th anniversary, the band released a deluxe edition with live acoustic versions of some of the songs. And they're surprisingly good, some I even prefer over their original version, like Walking in Circles. If you're looking for something that captures the soul of old Linkin Park but also has its own legs to stand on, definitely check this out. Next we got what I like to call my personal audio slave, the time Chester was briefly the new singer for Stone Temple Pilots. Back in 2013, Scott Weiland was fired from STP for, well, being Scott Weiland. This resulted in a lawsuit between him and the band. They didn't want Scott to call himself a former member publicly, which led to him countersuing for being wrongfully fired. The whole thing was pretty messy, but eventually Chester stepped in to fill Scott's role. I remember some people making a stink about this, saying, oh, no one can replace Scott. Chester just sounds like a bad imitation or whatever. And believe me, I totally get people having concerns about the idea of replacing Scott Weiland. That dude was hands down one of the best singers of the 90s, but at the same time, this is Chester we're talking about. I'm a little biased, I'll fully admit, but like I said in the intro, he's got the power, the range, the versatility. If you're gonna be replaced by somebody, why not have it be him, you know? It was actually a long-time dream of Chester's to be a member of STP. Even before this, the two had a history together. They toured with Linkin Park on the Family Values tour in 2001, and there's even a live version of their song Wonderful with both Chester and Scott singing together. Bottom line, he was a good choice, as you can clearly tell by their 2013 EP High Rise. This project combines both of their styles perfectly. Chester still sounds like himself, but he isn't screaming at the top of his lungs like in Linkin Park or doing some half-assed Scott impression. He's still got that power, but does a lot of nice vocal layering and melodies, like on Cry Cry. The rest of the band sounds great too. The guitar bounces between melodic and kind of unorthodox chords to bombastic solos. The bass is super groovy and deceptively complex like John Paul Jones. And the drums sound massive. In fact, this whole EP just sounds big. My favorite track's gotta be the closer, Tomorrow. This is definitely the most STP sounding song on here. It's at a medium tempo, it sounds loose but feels super tight. The bongos in the second verse and the choruses hit you like waves. I can gush about Stone Temple Pilots all day and how they're genuinely one of the most underappreciated bands like ever, but I'll save that for another time. Sadly, this was their only release with Chester, as he left the band in 2015 to focus more on Linkin Park, and was eventually replaced with their current singer, Jeff Gutt. But thankfully, there's a plethora of live videos with Chester. It might be a bit jarring to hear iconic songs like Plush or Interstate without Scott, but I think he did an incredible job at making these his own.
Have you ever seen blood on the tip of a needle? Then you don't know what I feel.
Okay, this next one might be breaking the rules just a schmither, but oh wait, there are no rules, I forgot. Next we got Us You by Hellflower. This was a short-lived project Chester was the executive producer for. He doesn't perform on this directly, but you can definitely hear his influence. It's got a cool lineup though. The original bassist from Orgy, Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. This EP elicits the same feelings I get when I listen to a band like Off. It's loud, angry, and so much shit is thrown at you at once, all you can do is just enjoy the ride. The song Accelerator is a great example of this. The choruses are filled with miscellaneous percussion, a lot of guitar layering, and the kick drum is so deep. I feel this song is where the band really honed their sound, and I would have loved to hear them explore it more, but sadly this is all they got. According to the band, there were plans to record an entire album, but that never worked out. Thankfully it's easy to find on YouTube, but I think this had a lot of potential, and it's a shame we only got the one release whose last song makes up half the runtime. Oh well, it still gets my recommendation at the end of the day, but given it's super short, it's something you should only listen to every month or so. Like, is that one thing you got saved on a random spot in your hard drive and you just do not have it in you to delete it. And finally, we got No Sun Today by Grey Daze, the band Chester was in before joining Linkin Park. His ties with this band goes back pretty far. There's even some super early demos of them before they were even called Grey Daze from 1990. Chester was probably 15 at this point, and even then he still sounds great. But I want to focus on their second album, because you can definitely hear him planting the seeds for Hybrid Theory. It's like listening to Caius and hearing Josh Homme do the same for Queens of the Stone Age. You hear Chester pull off these crazy grit-your-teeth-ass screams on songs like Anything Anything and Soul Song, but in the latter's case, it's backed by this subdued acoustic guitar, and needless to say, the dichotomy is crazy.
While a memory closes up the sun.
Kind of in the same way Out of Exile reminded me of other Linkin Park albums, No Sun Today has songs that remind me of multiple other bands with different styles. Just like Heroin and sometimes are slow and sludgy like Alice in Chains. The guitar chords on Hole remind me of Stone Temple Pilots, a bit of foreshadowing, you love to see it. And the slap bass and punk style on B12 kind of reminds me of early Incubus.
Hooray, hurrah, hooray, hurrah, hooray.
This isn't to a point where I think they're ripping these guys off. It's more like they got a wide range of influences and you can hear all that in some capacity. In fact, out of all the things on this album, the bass stuck out to me the most, besides Chester, of course. It has a lot of presence on these songs and is pretty dynamic too. The slap on B12 and Syndrome, galloping on Saturation, it even gets melodic on In Time. There's a couple times I think the slap can be a bit intrusive, it'll happen at points where I don't think it necessarily fits in the context of the song, like on Sickness. Speaking as a bassist, slap is fun as shit, but you gotta know when to use it and when not to use it. But this is few and far between. The album does have a few skips in my opinion, but overall it's a good listen, especially if you're a fan of Chester. However, this is going to be a cautious recommendation because I have some strong opinions about Grey Daze as a band. So a year after No Sun Today came out, Chester left the band because of internal conflicts, which eventually caused the rest of Grey Daze to split altogether. Chester would join Linkin Park a year later, and everybody went to go do their own thing. Well, fast forward to 2017, and according to drummer Sean Dowdle, Chester proposed the idea of doing a reunion with the rest of the band. However, he sadly passed away shortly after this, killing any chances of a reunion, at least in a live setting, as a few years later, the band released the album Amends in 2020. This remade a bunch of their old songs using Chester's isolated vocal tracks with new instrumentations. This is something I've seen a lot of artists do for post-mortem releases. I remember the Cranberries did this for their last last album after Dolores O'Riordan died. They even got Chester's wife to approve of this, so it seems like they went through all the proper steps with doing it. What's my issue? Well, for starters, I think the new versions sound kinda bad. The new instrumentals don't really fit the vocal style, and it might just be me, but it sounds like they pitch corrected Chester on some of them.
You don't need me by the walls, that's to fall, I trip out, you know,
I don't understand why they wouldn't just write the instrumentals in the same key instead of tarnishing Chester's parts, but I can still respect the idea of them wanting to honor him like this, even if I think the end result sounds bad. If they stopped here, I'd have very few problems with Grey Daze, but sadly there's still more of this video, so no, they didn't stop there. After Amends came out, they also released an acoustic rendition, merch with Chester's likeness, he's plastered all over their Spotify clips, their entire artist bio is about him, and a compilation called #ForYouChester. Finally, this culminated with their 2022 album, The Phoenix, which once again puts his old vocal tracks over new instrumentals, and once again, it sounds bad. Now, to the band's credit, they got some of Chester's kids to sing on one of the remakes, and from what I heard, all the profits went to his family. So there were good intentions going into this, but why did they need to do this a second time? It feels weirdly opportunistic when you consider it was 5 years since his death by then, he's on the damn cover, and again, they already did this. To bring up the Cranberries again, you may remember in my video, cover songs I like less than the originals, I ended with Bad Wolf's cover of Zombie, both because it sucked and because they marketed the shit out of it after Dolores O'Riordan's death in 2018. To me, that is some of the scummiest shit you can ever do, attaching a dead person to your release just to get as many eyes on it as possible. Now, in the case of both, that wasn't the intention going in. Dolores was actually gonna sing on Bad Wolf's cover, and Chester was the one who allegedly proposed the idea for the Grey Daze reunion. But then after their deaths, suddenly these got a lot more lucrative. This is why Grey Daze is a cautious recommendation. I do genuinely enjoy their stuff from the 90s when Chester was in the band, and I want to share that music with y'all, but I can't in good faith talk about that music without also talking about what I see as a blatant capitalization of a man's death. There were good intentions going into this, but the more it went on, the worse it got. Chester Bennington was a great man. His legacy is beyond words, and his music will stand the test of time forever. Shitty remakes be damned. Like I said in the intro, this month marks the 8th anniversary of his death. And even though that hits you like a goddamn semi-truck, we should celebrate what he gave us. Whether that's Linkin Park, Dead by Sunrise, Stone Temple Pilots, there's a lot to enjoy. As always, thank you for watching, shoutouts to my patrons, and I'll see y'all next time when we talk about Jimmy Kimmel.